Hi guys, welcome back to my second drawing session for my collection that is beachy athletic wear, whatever you want to call it. These are 3 new girls. It is the second page. We are still kind of in the beach theme realm, so these girls are not going to deviate too far from the color story from the other ones, but we might introduce a different color. I need to kind of like move on to the next bunch. But yeah, these girls are gorgeous. I love the drawing for all of them. With this group of girls, I actually have one girl wearing a sweat look, lounge look if you will, something along those lines. So she's wearing sweatpants and then she's actually wearing a running jacket, like a tight-fitting jacket. It's a little different from the tight-fitting activewear that I have done in the past 3 girls and then also with these 2. So yeah, let's get started. So we're gonna start with this lovely lady. I'm going to just lay her base color down. Today I wanted to talk about inspiration. If you create anything, in any capacity, you know that inspiration is your best frenemy. On the days you have it, it's a euphoric, exhilarating, gravity-defying high that can bring you to tears of joy. And we just don't talk about those days when you don't have it. Given the choice between endless inspiration and abundant, meaningful friendships, people don't start to look that enticing. Honestly, having a good relationship with our muses is just that important. And while it's more rare that you'll have to choose between your friends and inspiration, I think most creatives will agree you often do have to make sacrifices for your inspiration when it comes to pleasing others and making money, quite honestly. From what I've seen in fashion, I just don't think that fashion merchandisers are all about high concept, epic odysseys of collections. Like, I just don't think that that's in their best interest. And that's not even entirely fair. I mean, they could really enjoy all of those things until it costs them money, which might be weird to the designer because I believe that artists are an entirely alien breed to this world that can survive on nothing but integrity instead of water and food, shelter, and money. Like they can survive on integrity and vision, and that's it. Honestly, up until the summer of my junior year in high school, my inspiration was so manufactured by the epic Greek themes of the old masters mixed with edgy contemporary art. Like it was a mishmash of everything that my magnet art school taught me to find inspiration from. So it's day 2 of doing these girls, and I'm now on to the top. So for this one, I was gonna go in with the Brittany Blue for the actual top. And I just wanted to have this really fun crop top. For these little raglan sleeves, I was gonna go in with the cool gray, do this beautiful kind of wave look. It's almost very princessy, this top. I think conceptually it's very strong because it is very representative of the water, of the waves. Armpit patch. Yesterday my dad and I were walking and he's wearing this red tank top that actually had fabric piece for the armpit. It's not anything like revolutionary here. I'm not like recreating the wheel, but women's athletic wear just doesn't really seem to do it enough. At least in the athletic wear that I follow, I'd like to have it last past that one sweating session, so I think I am gonna add crotch seams to all of my designs. I like a crotch seam, and it's standard in almost every single garment except for leggings, really. I really only have 2 direct beginnings of my fashion illustration journey that I can remember, and one of them was drawing primitive flats of all of the clothes that Miley Stewart would wear in the first 2 seasons of Hannah Montana. Like, I just think that that was what every tween thought that fashion was. That was the definition of fashion back during that time. And then in high school, I upgraded to this sketchbook that my mother bought me from Five Below, of all places. And it was a sketchbook that had all of these like pre-drawn croquis, and you would just draw whatever you wanted design-wise on top of them. So I would just design clothing for every weird, wild, and wacky occasion that I could think of, and it was such a fun time. Then that summer of my junior year in high school, everything changed because I went to a pre-college program in Chicago at SAIC for fashion design. I learned about Comme des Garçons, Alexander McQueen, Iris Van Herpen, Victor and Rolf. You would understand how my eyes were flung wide open if you know who those designers are. My perspective of what fashion could be changed instantly after that. Instead of being trend-based and reliant, it became about what fit into conceptually what I was trying to say. And before then, I didn't even know that you could get super conceptual with fashion. I didn't know that you could tell stories through fashion, which leads me to my first point about how to get inspiration. Write a story. I am so sorry. I keep not panning the camera down whenever I'm working in a different area. That is my bad. I did the legs. Aren't they gorgeous? They're so leggy. Okay, that's all. Now we have this lovely lady. I don't know if this is a particularly common thing for everyone. As a kid, I did all the forms of creative thinking. I drew, I wrote stories, I sang, I danced. I was just doing all of the things that I could to get out my child brain creativity. And I loved writing stories. I would illustrate for my stories, and that was part of how I was drawing all the time, was just that I was writing stories and I was drawing to accompany those stories. My dad's also a writer, so I think that might have something else to do with it too, but man, I could go forever like coming up with creative writing. Like, that was just something that spoke to me, that I could conjure if needed. If I sat with myself long enough, I could think of a story. During that pre-college program at SAIC, I created a fashion collection that was accompanied by a short story. A story of a woman who left everything behind in her life to climb Mount Fuji, and the whole collection was about how she was climbing Mount Fuji. It had a lot of Japanese inspiration, a lot of inspiration from artist Kitagawa Utamaro. It was also combined with athleisure and athletic wear, which was really big at the time. Like, athleisure was hoppin', and it's still hoppin', but it was really new back when I did that, back in, oh god, I don't even know what that would be, like 2011. So I literally wrote a short story to go along with my collection. And that's probably an extreme version of creating a collection, but to be honest, I wouldn't mind if fashion houses released full novels every season. It would certainly incentivize me to spend tens of thousands of dollars for collections if I knew that these designers were literally writing a whole book to accompany them. Like, I don't know, just somehow spending tens of thousands of dollars seems somewhat more justified, just with the extra effort. And it's still unclear to me whether or not stores or consumers actually care about inspiration, a story, a mood, a memory, something to really elevate the collection so that it's more personal. I just don't know if consumers are really into that. I would like to think that they are, given the fact that people are so into sustainability, kind of tracking the journey of their clothing item and how it was made and if it was made ethically, but I just don't know if that also extends to the designer. It is the second day of doing this drawing. I actually ran out of this marker, the Mocha Light, and I had to stop because it was going to be another situation like with my first drawing where I ran out of the marker and it was just really streaky on the leggings and I ended up having to go over it again. And I might do that again here. I don't know. I might have gotten too far past the point of no return. I'm hoping that it's still okay and it'll all be good. I actually wanted to talk about this waistband right here. I designed it and I thought it's kind of an interesting shape. I'm worried that I'm not able to see the limitations of what I'm doing. So, I could be designing something that's just not ever going to be practical to make. The only thing is you'd have to take this shape and you'd have to double it to make a facing for it. It would just have to be a very high-end legging. And I can think of a few examples. I can think of Balance Athletica with their booty seam where it goes into a point. That's kind of about it as far as like the brands that I can think that do cool things with their waistband, because it really is very rare. The best thing about writing a story or having a narrative for your collection is that it helps you to move the collection along. It helps come up with a color story, like maybe there's a growth of your character, there's a growth of what happened, there's a journey that your character has taken, and I think that that can definitely be expressed in a collection. Collections are great for progression. The thing about this collection though is that what I just described of writing a story, it isn't exactly what I would say I did for this collection. Now, I could definitely piece together a story for this collection because this collection is entirely based on my experiences, my life, me going to the beach. I could definitely come up with something about some experience I had on the beach or some experience I had on Jockey's Ridge or just going into a beach shop that day. The thing is though that this collection to me is more mood and memory based. So the memory for me is about going to the Outer Banks. Just the fact that I've been there at least once every year of my life, but I think I've missed maybe 1 or 2 years. I know that my dad's been there every single year of his life. By the way, when I say the Outer Banks, I'm not talking about the show from Netflix. I saw the first episode. It was fine. I'm not going to harp on it, but it's not something that I'm going to sit down and watch. If you want to, that's fine, but just know that it was not filmed in the Outer Banks, and it does not accurately capture what I think of when I think of the Outer Banks. So just putting that out there. I don't always recommend this method of inspiration though. I don't think a feeling is the most dynamic unless it's the base for other inspiration techniques. I'm actually really excited. I have 2 new colors to me. I have Dark Suntan and I also have Caribe Cocoa, this cool new color Aubergine, which has a little bit of purple in it. I'm really excited about these colors. I think that just opens up a whole new range of what I can do with deeper skin tones, which I just love. Okay, so like how fabulous is that base already? I'm like in love with this color. What a mood and memory-based collection would be really good for is the next technique that I'm going to talk about, which is having a god complex. I think I might have a hereditary god complex passed down to me by my hobbyist father who created his model world, Charlestown, in our basement. When I say adopt a god complex while designing clothing, I mean develop your own world with your own people who inhabit this world. What would they do? How would they act? And most importantly, what would they be wearing? So if you're not feeling like busting out your author's feather quill for a short story that will never be published and nobody really cares about, I find creating a whole new world to be the easier option. When I was younger, I remember playing a video game called Ratchet & Clank. If anyone else knows about that video game, comment down below because that was seriously one of the best video games of my childhood. And probably one of the only video games I played. It was that and then also EA Sports Snowboarding, which was also like an amazing video game. Anyway, Ratchet & Clank was so amazing, mostly for the fact that they literally created all these new planets, all these new worlds that were so beautiful and so well done. Sometimes I still think about those worlds. Like there was one world that just was always raining, and then there was another world that had a more tropical vibe where it had like these sand sharks pop up from the ground. It was just, it was so fascinating. I loved those planets. I think there's so much you could do with like creating a world for your collections to live in. Because if you think about different cultures of the world, of our world, planet Earth, and you think about the different designs that those cultures produce, you also take into account the different designs of different cultures throughout centuries of history. It's like every single culture and every single time period designed to solve a new problem for that culture or for that time. There's no end to the amount of things you could come up with. What kind of weird and wacky worlds you could design for. what kind of interesting, nuanced civilization you could be thinking about in your head. I don't know, I think that creating a whole new world is such a cool way to go about fashion design. I use it all the time. Like literally, if I'm thinking of a really cool place, I'm just like, who would live there? It has jogged my head of inspiration so many times. And then with things like creating a world, then I'll go into, oh, let me tell a story in this world. So it just kind of snowballs. Like you just kind of go down different avenues. That's the amazing thing about being an artist. You never know what's gonna happen. My final inspiration hunting technique, the duck whistle, if you will, is to party theme yourself. Literally pick random yet general themes. I only do this when I'm really desperate. Even if I don't plan on using it for the final collection, it's a nice starting point. If you're especially contrarian like myself, even the most basic prompt will turn your creative switch on. You'll hear space, and you know, the first thought in my head will be, space, that's so dumb. What are we doing, astronauts or something? No, I'm gonna do my own thing. It'll be space, thinking about spatial awareness, using mesh or something like that that has holes in it, varying degrees of holes, something that'll give someone with that phobia of holes a nightmare. It'll give them a nightmare. And then I'll be like, oh, maybe that's not such a good idea. But it'll get me thinking is the point I'm trying to make. Very badly, I'm trying to make that point. But so I would consider those to be my 3 staple means of getting inspiration. I wasn't gonna sit here and bore you with listen to music or a podcast. Yes, of course, I will always flip through my stacks of disemboweled magazines and finger through the art books that make up 1/3 of my hoarder soft spots, along with clothes and troves of canvases and sketchbooks from art school that I can't part with because, like, what if I become a famous artist? Like, yeah, I'll always tell you to do those things, but that should be a given. And then of course, because you want to be the best artist you can be with all of the gold stars, you still take inspo from TV shows, street style, current events, literally wherever you can find it. But as with all things, you have to take inspiration, be influenced, but just don't steal. Ideally, you would utilize everything I said all together. Ideally, you'll be standing in front of someone who knows more than you about collection creation, and you can show them a giant cinder block of a sketchbook, and they can look at you like you're a crazy person, but really, they respect the crazy because they know that something cool is happening up there in your head. I also think the main thing about inspiration is I definitely think you have to be in the mood for it. And this is a really hard thing because I remember being in a really low point emotionally through certain periods of college. Not anything serious, just like I just wasn't feeling like amazing about myself. I wasn't feeling amazing about anything that I was creating, and it definitely translated into my inspiration. I think I definitely phoned in a few assignments and wasn't as amazing as I could have been, and that's a hard thing to comprehend. I think that you have to be in a certain mood to create. You have to be in a good mood to create good things, because I think whenever you know that you don't have inspiration, it puts you in a bad mood. So it's like a vicious cycle. But definitely with inspiration, there are ways to fish it out of you. And when you finally get the inspiration and you get those ideas that just give you the stupidest looking grin, like I've had those inspiration moments where a light bulb literally went off on my head and I just couldn't stop smiling like an idiot because it makes you feel amazing. So hopefully when you find that inspiration that really gets you excited, then it'll be a good snowball effect. It'll be a really good moment when you'll just start finding so much inspiration that it starts to just come to you and you just can't stop. You have to put some inspiration in your back pocket because you can't use it right now because you just have so much inspiration going on currently. Those are the best times. But hopefully these methods are good to help you get out of a rut in whatever state of mind you're in. That's my hope. We certainly have the capability of creating amazing things that are completely our own, that we never have to take from anyone else, that we never have to feel bad about. Because literally in fashion design, I didn't know that you could make this medium so crazy, so off the walls, and so, I mean, conceptual would be the most professional word. I didn't know that fashion design was such a viable source of storytelling. But it really is. You can really say so much with clothing, and I just think that that's the most amazing thing. That's probably one of the things that I enjoy about fashion design the most, other than the fact that I get to draw beautiful women and men, and sometimes children. I get to draw beautiful people. I just hope this helps you, and if anyone else has any other ways that they like to get inspiration, let me know. I'd love to hear about it because I'm always looking to find all the inspiration all the time. We're all artists, that's what we do. So yeah, see you next time.